Good afternoon. I'm Tony Lopresti, County Counsel for the County of Santa Clara. Really appreciate everybody coming out today. We are announcing that our office has filed a lawsuit against the owners of 5 Metro by T-Mobile retailer stores in East San Jose and Milpitas for committing rampant violations of labor code laws designed to protect the basic rights of workers. Those violations include abuses of child labor laws and minimum wage standards. This lawsuit is an escalation of our office's and the county's fight to protect worker rights in Santa Clara County. I'm going to start by saying a few words to introduce the lawsuit, provide a bit of context for our offices and the county's broader work around worker rights. I'm then going to hand over the mic to Supervisor Betty Jung from District 2, followed by Ruth Silver-Taub, who is the supervising attorney for the Worker Rights Clinic at the Santa Clara University School of Law. Ruth will be followed by Jean Cohen, who is the executive officer for the South Bay Labor Council. And we'll round out our list of speakers with José Yu, who is the director of the county's Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, or OLSE. I'll then offer some comments in Spanish. Supervisor Jung will offer some comments in Vietnamese, and we'll take some questions and then make ourselves available for any interviews you might want to do. The lawsuit that we filed yesterday afternoon in Santa Clara County Superior Court alleges that a group of individuals and companies that own and operate Metro by T-Mobile retailer outlets in East San Jose and Milpitas have engaged in pervasive violations of labor code laws that protect the rights of workers. Our investigation revealed that these businesses are exploiting workers, including teen workers as young as 14 years of age. They pay workers less than minimum wage. They require long shifts without paying overtime or providing meal or rest breaks. They often fail to pay workers on payday. And when they do pay, they pay in cash, under the table, without paying taxes, and without providing workers the wage statements that the law requires, precisely because those statements help workers figure out if they've been underpaid. In other words, our investigation revealed in this case what study after study and story after story tells us is all too common. Employers are ignoring the law and abusing workers to bolster their profits. They are stealing wages out of the pockets of folks who are struggling to get by in an unforgiving economy. And because those workers don't get what they've earned, they often have to turn to the county to access safety net services just to survive. So if you're keeping score, here's where we're at. The defendants win out by violating the law. The workers lose out by taking home less than they're rightfully earned. And the county pays out to catch folks in the safety net because they can't afford the basics. And to make matters worse, the businesses that do comply with the law have to compete against low-road businesses that are content to play with a stacked deck. The vast majority of businesses in our community do everything they can to be sure that they comply with the law. They shouldn't have to operate at a competitive disadvantage just because they choose not to steal from their workers. If you put this all together, these defendants are undermining the quality of life in our community. And they'll continue to do that if there's no enforcement to stop them. This lawsuit is about holding low-road businesses accountable to the law. It's the first of many lawsuits our office will be filing to enforce the labor code. Employers should be crystal clear that we are willing, that we are able, and that we are ready to go to court to ensure they pay a steep price if they exploit their workers. This lawsuit is part of a broader initiative by our office, by the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, and the county as a whole to scale up our efforts to protect workers. Over the last year alone, we've taken action to collect millions of dollars of unpaid wage judgments. We've worked with Senator Aisha Wahab to introduce Senate Bill 261, which would create a public listing of businesses that fail to pay wage judgments against them, and that would require that those businesses pay triple penalties if they delay on payment beyond 6 months. And we're very proud to be working on an effort championed by Supervisors Jung and Ellenberg to develop a full-day Know Your Rights training for fast food workers. I want to be clear that the county's growing commitment to enforcement and accountability in this area of worker rights does not, by any means, stand alone. It is meant to complement the extraordinary and expansive work that community-based organizations and labor organizations do on the daily to protect workers. We're thrilled to partner with them in carrying out this work that is so vital to the economic sustainability of our region. We are living in a time of extreme economic uncertainty and vulnerability. No one feels that uncertainty and vulnerability more acutely than low-wage workers who struggle to scrape by. The county is stepping up alongside our community and labor partners to play our part to ensure that the law is a true backstop of fairness and justice for workers. I want to conclude by thanking the many investigators and attorneys who have been working tirelessly to make this lawsuit and this overarching effort possible. Those folks include Vincent Eng, Nebiat Berhani, Valerie Brender, Nicole Collins, Taryn Edwards, Ricardo Murillo, Willie Wynn, Elizabeth Pianca, Ravi Rajendra, and Michael Rossi. It's now my great honor to introduce County of Santa Clara District 2 Supervisor Betty Jung, who, before becoming a supervisor, was the founding director of Office of Labor Standards Enforcement and has been a staunch advocate for worker rights.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Each year, $15 billion in wages are stolen from workers across the United States. According to the California Department of Industrial Relations, in 2020, over 7,000 wage theft claims were filed in the Bay Area alone. Wage theft is a persistent problem right here in Santa Clara County, and it harms people across sectors, but particularly those in retail, food, construction, home care, janitorial, and retail sales. Wage theft can happen to anyone, but often it's those who are the most vulnerable to exploitation who end up being the most harmed. The Metro by T-Mobile stores that violated their workers' rights are primarily located in and around East San Jose, a community with lower incomes, higher health disparities, and a higher percentage of non-English speaking households than countywide averages. This is my district. This is my home. These are my constituents, my neighbors, my families, and this will not go. This will not be tolerated here. The store owner specifically targeted this community that has had fewer resources historically to fight against injustices using the legal system. By committing wage theft and other labor violations, they enrich themselves by taking money out of households, out of low-income families, out of working families' resources. These wages rightfully belong to their employees, and then the employers push the cost of their unfair, unlawful business practices onto the communities they operate, directly depriving our East San Jose community of income, economic stability, and dignity. As a former director of the county's Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, I know firsthand how important it is for workers to know their rights and for us to ensure a fair and just economic environment for businesses and employers doing the right thing. Powerful, essential enforcement is absolutely necessary to hold violators accountable. We've been shown time and time again that without this enforcement, they will continue to break the law, they will continue to steal from working families. But we appreciate our businesses and franchise owners that ensure a safe and compliant workplace for their workers. It's important for everyone to know that as a county, we're committed to enforcing the law to protect all workers. Regardless of your immigration status, you have rights at work. Our county's Office of Labor Standards Enforcement is a resource and information hub providing training and support for thousands of workers and small business owners in Santa Clara County every year. I am proud of the partnership that our Office of the County Counsel, the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, and the labor movement have undertaken to develop a workers' rights initiative that focuses on preventing, prosecuting, and remedying wage theft and labor abuses. The more we can partner to investigate cases and bring litigation, the more we are going to be able to put a stop to workplace violations, collect hard-earned back wages for employees across our county, and ensure fairness for all members of our community. This case against the T-Mobile retailers is the first lawsuit of its kind being brought forward as part of the county's Workers' Rights Initiative, but it won't be the last. And we're going to keep on doing this until people understand that you don't pull this stuff in District 2, not in this county, ever again. Thank you to our County Counsel, our Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, our partners and the labor movement, the Wage Theft Coalition, the Workers' Rights Clinic of Santa Clara University School of Law, and all of the business and employers who are doing the right thing by their workers in our county. To close, I want to remind everyone that the county also provides a free legal advice line through the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement for small businesses, employers, and workers seeking information and assistance with labor standards compliance or workplace issues. I encourage anyone who may be a victim of wage theft or other workplace violations to call the free advice line today, 1-866-870-7725. The advice line support is free and available in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Tagalog. Callers can choose to remain anonymous. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and we're going to keep this fight going. Thank you. Oh, and at this time, I'd like to introduce Ruth Silvertaub with the Workers' Rights Clinic of Santa Clara University School of Law.
I am the supervising attorney of the workers' rights practice at the Catherine and George Alexander Community Law Center at Santa Clara University School of Law, and I also supervise the legal advice line 866-870-7725, and it's for employers and for workers. I also coordinate the Santa Clara County Wage Theft Coalition. Wage theft is far too common across the U.S., and especially here in Santa Clara County. The county has long been a powerful partner to advocates who are trying to combat wage theft. Workers and advocates rely on the work OLSC has done to create and support the advice line for workers. Implement a powerful outreach and education effort to tell workers about their rights and enforce wage theft judgments. We are thrilled that the County Council's office is now also directly enforcing workers' rights. And I am excited to think about the ways we can work together to protect workers from abuse. Now, more than ever in these challenging times, it is so important for workers to report these kind of workplace violations so that all of us can use the legal tools we have to put a stop to and deliver justice to those that are harmed. This lawsuit is a groundbreaking effort by the county to combat wage theft, pervasive employment law violations, and the egregious practice of child labor. The theft of workers' earned wages is an epidemic that costs workers billions of dollars across various industries. In Santa Clara County alone, the Wage Theft Coalition's 2021 analysis of federal, state, and local databases found a total of 25,856 reported wage theft cases across industries that affect 32,826 employees. Child labor violations have been on the rise in recent years, and we've heard about them at the clinic and on the advice line. The U.S. Department of Labor has seen a 69% increase in child labor since 2018, with more than 3,800 children impacted in the 2022 fiscal year. We're seeing more child labor because instead of responding to labor shortages by making it more attractive to work at these businesses, owners found it was cheaper to make it easier for children to work, said Skip Mark, a political scientist at the University of Rhode Island. More kids in the workforce will undermine efforts to improve working conditions and wages for adults, he said. Research indicates children who work long hours are more likely than their counterparts to drop out of high school. However, the only education a child will gain from working long hours is how exploitation feels. The Metro by T-Mobile's businesses named in the lawsuit sell cellular telephone service plans and accessories. The lawsuit alleges that Metro by T-Mobile businesses have hired and violated the rights of workers in the underserved community of East San Jose, including teenagers, as you've heard, who are as young as 14 years old, by paying less than minimum wage, failing to pay overtime, failing to provide meal and rest breaks, paying them late, paying them in cash without wage theft statements, and employing minors without permits and for hours in excess of the hours permitted by law. The lawsuit alleges that the businesses are routinely disregarding child labor laws, which exist specifically because minors are vulnerable to workplace exploitation. The lawsuit alleges that these companies have a business model that permits them to make profit by flaunting labor and employment laws and engaging in anti-competitive practices, which put businesses that obey the law at a competitive disadvantage in violation of Business and Professions Code 17200, the unfair competition law. These unfair practices inflict social costs too. Wage theft harms workers and their families directly and puts a strain on social services, the social safety net, and taxpayer-funded entities. This has a ripple effect on the state's economy. These businesses exploit vulnerable children and commit unfair competition that disproportionately affects East San Jose, but also the county at large. Again, I am delighted that the county is now enforcing workers' rights to augment the important work of the OLSC's outreach and training to workers and employers. The Labor Commission of the state is understaffed and deluged with cases that take 3 to 4 years to resolve. Lawsuits like the one filed by the county send a clear message to employers that wage theft and violation of labor and employment laws will not be tolerated in Santa Clara County. Thank you. I will now introduce Jean Cohn, Executive Officer of the South Bay Labor Council.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Cohen. I'm the Executive Officer of the South Bay Labor Council. I formally represent over 100,000 working families in Silicon Valley, but the labor movement represents all workers, irrespective of union representation, immigration status, or political affiliation. We stand united with trusted partners like Santa Clara County's Office of Labor Standards to protect and defend workers. We envision a county where everyone, no matter their occupation, has access to basic labor rights and the information needed to be empowered on the job. Every day, workers in the South Bay must grapple with wage theft, sexual harassment, and dangerous working conditions. On top of that, they face the added threat of retaliation and intimidation when they speak up about their rights and have to manage complex navigation, legal, and language barriers that many of us are not familiar with having to deal with every day on the job. People of Santa Clara County should be very concerned because wage theft is happening every day. But residents of Santa Clara County should also be very comforted that their tax dollars are being invested in policies that protect workers and that include an prioritization for small businesses to make sure that low road businesses are held accountable for the impact they have on the community. Whether it's a violation of child labor laws or not meeting minimum wage standards, the impact of knowing your rights cannot be understated. Litigation is a very powerful tool, and we are proud to partner with the County Counsel on this and many other important lawsuits that protect workers and hold businesses accountable for hurting people and negatively impacting the economy. In recent months in Santa Clara County, We have stood shoulder to shoulder with courageous workers. Fast food workers organizing to learn and defend their rights, gig workers organizing, and doctors and nurses at Regional Medical Center who challenged corporate power to continue caring for the community of the East Side and the balance of Santa Clara County. We at the South Bay Labor Council, the Wage Theft Coalition, and our partners at Santa Clara County will continue to utilize all the tools available to hold businesses who steal wages and hard workers accountable. We believe in doubling down in our investments in a multi-pronged approach with resources and litigation, public policy, and community education to ensure our economy works for all people. If you are stealing wages in Santa Clara County, you should be worried because you will be held accountable. Thank you. I'd like to introduce José, the Director of Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm José Yu with the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, or OLSE for short. We work towards creating safe and respectful workplaces for all Santa Clara County residents. OLSE carries forward the vision and the instruction of the Board of Supervisors that the county must play an active role to prevent and combat wage theft in our community. Wage theft happens whenever an employee doesn't get all the wages or benefits they've earned. It happens in all sorts of ways, including through minimum wage, overtime, and other violations like the one the County Council spoke about. While it harms workers and their families directly, wage theft also harms the community more broadly by increasing poverty and economic insecurity and by creating pressure for law-abiding businesses to cut corners just to stay competitive. OLSE supports workers throughout the county, as well as businesses trying to do the right thing in ways that complement and work in tandem with the efforts of our County Council partners. I want to highlight two. First, prevention is key. Our office believes that education is the first line of defense against wage theft. We want workers and businesses alike to know what the law requires because our goal is for workers to not experience wage theft at all. So we partner with community organizations to do outreach and education in the community, meeting folks where they are. Our partners provide free, multilingual, culturally competent information to workers and businesses, host free trainings, and even run free legal clinics. We also support a free advice line. In the last 5 years, over 8,500 workers and businesses have called the advice line with a workplace question or concern and received legal advice from employment attorneys who are based in our community. The advice line is free for anyone who calls and is staffed by attorneys who speak 6 different languages. Second, we run enforcement programs. OLSE leverages county authority over contracts and food permits to ensure that restaurants and our own contractors promptly pay workers any outstanding wage theft judgments. We partner with the California Labor Commissioner's Office to do this work, and over the last 5 years, these programs have returned over $435,000 to workers for wages earned, but where employers haven't paid. We invite and encourage anyone with a workplace question or concern to call the advice line at 866-870-7725. Attorneys want to help and can support callers in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, Tagalog, and Visayan. Thank you, and I'll hand it back to our County Counsel for closing remarks.
So thank you so much to all of our speakers. I'm going to just say some summary comments in Spanish and then hand it back to Supervisor Jung to say a few words in Vietnamese, and then we'll take a few questions and open up for interview. Soy Tony Lopresti, abogado del Condado de Santa Clara. Quiero agradecerles por venir. Ayer en la tarde, nuestro oficina ha interpuesto una demanda contra los propietarios de 5 tiendas autorizadas de T-Mobile en el este de San José por cometer infracciones del Código Laboral destinada a proteger los derechos básicos de los trabajadores, incluidas las leyes sobre el trabajo infantil y los estándares sobre el sueldo mínimo. Esta demanda forma parte de nuestra lucha para proteger los derechos de los trabajadores del Condado de Santa Clara. Nuestra investigación de dichas tiendas reveló que ellos se aprovechan de la mano de obra de todas, incluidas adolescentes, a dichos trabajadores de tan solo 14 años de edad les pagan menos de sueldo mínimo. Exigen turnos largos sin pagar las horas extras y tampoco proporcionan los descansos ni el tiempo para comer. El día de pago muchas veces no les pagan a sus trabajadores y cuando pagan lo hacen en efectivo por debajo de la mesa sin dar estados de nómina y sin pagar los impuestos exigidos. Nuestra investigación reveló lo que es demasiado común. Empleadores que ignoran la ley y abusan de los trabajadores para aumentar sus ganancias. Están robando los sueldos de los bolsillos de personas que luchan por salir adelante en una economía despiadada. Esta demanda pretende que las empresas cumplan la ley. Es la primera de muchas demandas que vamos a avanzar para hacer cumplir el Código Laboral. Estamos viviendo en una época de extrema incertidumbre económica. Nadie siente esa incertidumbre y vulnerabilidad de manera tan intensa como los trabajadores con sueldos bajos, quienes luchan para subsistir. El condado se esfuerza por desempeñar el papel que nos corresponde para garantizar que la ley defienda la equidad y la justicia para todos los trabajadores. Ánimo a cualquiera que pueda ser víctima de un robo de sueldo o de otra infracción laboral a que llame a línea gratuita de asesoramiento 1-866-870-7725. Nuestra línea de asesoramiento está disponible en inglés, en español y en otros idiomas también. Las personas que llamen pueden elegir permanecer anónimo. Gracias y voy a darlo a Supervisor Young.
Thank you so much. I'll provide brief remarks in Vietnamese, summarizing today's announcement. Kính thưa quý vị, tôi tên là Betty Dương và là giám sát viên quận hạt Santa Clara khu vực 2. Hôm nay là cùng đứng với văn phòng luật sư của quận hạt Santa Clara để tuyên bố một cái sự kiện mới. Mà cái sự kiện này dính líu với một nhóm kinh doanh, 5 kinh doanh do một gia đình quản lý đã cố tình trốn thuế, đã cố tình không phát lương, đã cố tình bất hợp pháp để phạm những luật lao động của quận hạt Santa Clara và tiểu bang Cali. Vì vậy đó là quận hạt bây giờ hôm nay tuyên bố cái sự kiện này đặng cho có thể bắt họ phải trả lại bồi thường cái số tiền đền lại cho nhân viên và trả lại số tiền cho xã hội. Tại sao? Vì là tại đây quận hạt Santa Clara những luật lao động rất là rõ ràng là phải trả lương và phải đi theo đúng theo luật pháp đặng cho bảo vệ quyền lợi của những người lao động. Nếu mà mình đã làm trái cái luật pháp đó thì đó là không có công bằng đối với cái tình hình kinh tế và không có công bằng đối với những kinh doanh làm đúng theo luật và càng không có công bằng đối với người lao động. Mà bây giờ thường những người mà bị ảnh hưởng nhất về những luật pháp này đó là những người mà làm lương thấp, có thể là những gia đình lao động mà không có nhiều tài chính, cho nên lúc họ không được nhận lương là họ phải dựa vào cái hệ thống hỗ trợ của quận hạt Santa Clara. Cái đó thì tới lúc đó là sẽ là cái là đang ăn cắp tiền lương mà ăn cắp tiền của dân nữa và của xã hội. Cho nên hôm nay là quận hạt tuyên bố cái sự kiện này và cho quý vị biết là quận hạt Santa Clara cũng hiện đang cung cấp số điện thoại tư vấn pháp lý miễn phí hỗ trợ người lao động và doanh nghiệp có nhu cầu tìm hiểu hoặc cần giúp đỡ về các tiêu chuẩn lao động và vấn đề tại nơi làm việc. Nếu quý vị nghĩ rằng mình có thể là nạn nhân của hành vi ăn cắp tiền lương hoặc là mình là một chủ kinh doanh nhỏ mà chưa hiểu rõ những luật pháp lao động của tiểu bang Cali hoặc quận hạt Santa Clara, quý vị có thể gọi đến số điện thoại tư vấn miễn phí 1-866-870-7725. Số điện thoại này có hỗ trợ các ngôn ngữ gồm tiếng Anh, tiếng Mễ, tiếng Việt, tiếng Hoa và tiếng Phi. Người gọi có thể yêu cầu được giữ kín danh tính và người chủ hoặc là người chủ kinh doanh sẽ không có bị trả một số tiền gì hết đó. Đây là cái hệ thống hoàn toàn miễn phí để giúp đỡ cho những người kinh doanh và cho những người lao động đang cho có thể lúc nào cũng tuân theo luật pháp. Xin cảm ơn.
Okay, if there are any questions, happy to take them. Otherwise, can open up for some interviews. Yes, we've gotten quite a bit of information from different sources. I can't go into the specifics of those sources, but we do get quite a bit of information through the advice line. When people call to ask questions, they're oftentimes giving us facts that enable us to initiate an investigation with our great investigators, and they're able to kind of look behind the curtain, get at the facts that allow us to make out a lawsuit or take appropriate action. Yeah, so over the last 10 years, really, our board has been slowly scaling up its commitment. I shouldn't say slowly, but really focusing on the issue of worker rights within Santa Clara County. OLSC was started 5 or 6 years ago and has really been focused on the food facility sector, food service sector, collecting unpaid wage judgments, working with this advice line to make sure that workers have an avenue to get advice from attorneys when they're having issues in the workplace. Over the last year, the County Counsel's office has really scaled up its involvement. We received a grant from the Labor Commissioner's office, which allowed us to hire a couple of investigators and to proceed with prosecutions just like this one. So we've already started to collect on the over $23 million of unpaid wage judgments in Santa Clara County. We have a number of investigations underway, including this one, which led to a lawsuit that we filed yesterday, but we envision filing quite a few lawsuits as we continue our investigations moving forward. And then there's, as I mentioned during my comments, a legislative component as well. I think we've really understood that the laws in many cases aren't as strong as they need to be. So in the case of wage theft judgment, for example, even though a worker might go 2-3 years in order to get an adjudication on their wage theft complaint, they actually oftentimes aren't paid the actual wage theft judgment that comes from the Labor Commissioner's office. And there's no real disincentive in the law that keeps those businesses, who are oftentimes bad actors, from paying that wage theft. So the legislation that we're moving forward with Senator Wahhab's leadership would actually create a treble penalty if those wage theft judgments aren't paid within 6 months. So it creates the kind of teeth in the law where they're missing. And we think, together with all of these other efforts, will really have an impact on worker rights within the county. So, as with any lawsuit, we've made allegations in the complaint, but we're going to learn a lot more through the course of the lawsuit, through discovery in particular. The complaint names 6 individual defendants and a number of different specific corporate entities that are associated with these 6 stores. Those stores are in East San Jose and Milpitas, but there are additional stores associated with these defendants in Alameda County and in other locations. So, we are learning about each individual defendant's relationship to the stores, but what is clear and what is, set forth in the complaint is that they own these stores, they manage these stores, they directed the workers, they committed these violations, and they need to be held accountable. I think it's pretty clear they're working in concert, and the allegations of the complaint show how they're interacting with one another to manage and direct the employees. Well, our complaint focuses back to 2021, but that is, I think, a fact that we'll be looking at as we look closer at it. Yeah, so we have a number of different sources and a number of different ways of collecting information from the ground in the community. And we work with our community partners, we work through our advice line, and we really count on workers coming forward, reaching out to our community partners, reaching out to labor organizations, reaching out through the advice line. It's those avenues where we're getting the information that gives us the lead so that we can actually hold these businesses accountable. I can't speak to that, but what I can say is that these are some of the most vulnerable workers, including teenage workers that suffer this kind of exploitation in large part because they can't push back or don't know how to push back. That's one of the reasons, I don't want to speak for Supervisor Jung, but I think one of the reasons why there's this real investment at the county level in the Know Your Rights training. Anything else you want to add to that?
That's a great question. I just want to emphasize that what we've seen time and time again, and what the attorneys and the advocates behind me have seen time and time again, that victims of wage theft and labor violations, they're going to be the low wage workers, the hourly wage workers. They're going to be from immigrant populations, communities that are historically low income and under-resourced, because these are communities that have historically not leveraged the legal system to advocate for their rights. So it just adds insult to injury on top of this crime that not only is this also it's an act of wage theft, it's an act of a violation of dignity, of trust in the workplace, it's exploitation, but it's targeting these bad actors. And let me make clear, not all employers are bad actors, but the bad actors are out there. They know what they're doing. They knew who they're hiring, they know who they're targeting, who they're exploiting. We see that time and time again. So without speaking to the specifics of this case, it's always going to be the most vulnerable workers and most vulnerable communities and populations, limited English proficiency, mixed status or uncertain status, immigration status. And we also have seen a rise in immigration threats, right? So bad actors also threatening their workers. I'll report you to ICE. And that's been going on for a long time, but in this current climate, it's even worse now. So all the more reason, the investments that this county and this office, the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, in partnership with our labor partners, the labor movement, the workers' rights place, learning institutions, it's really to normalize these conversations, create as much accessibility to workers' rights training as possible, and letting people know that they actually have rights regardless of immigration status. So with you all being here today, that's going to help us further that message out to the world. Thank you so much.
Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you again for coming out and for covering this really important topic. Speakers are available for interviews if anybody wants to discuss anything further. Thanks so much.